All right, welcome to Tuesday Night Talks. I'm Samuel Lee Reed, the second executive director of the Atlanta Citizen Review Board. With me today is our outreach specialist, Charles Curry, communications specialist, Melissa Jean Baptiste, and our community affairs coordinator, Naomi Bowman. So, what is the ACRB? Let's just talk about that for a minute. The ACRB is an independent investigative agency of the city of Atlanta that was created after the death of 92-year-old Miss Catherine Johnson. She was killed by Atlanta police officers in 2006 in an illegal no-knock warrant raid. Yes, 20 years. Yeah, let's see. About 20 years ago, we were still dealing with these no-knock warrant raids that we're still dealing with today. So the city created the Atlanta Citizen Review Board to address citizens' concerns about the actions of Atlanta police officers. And as some of you may know, there was an incident that occurred the other night, last night actually, or yesterday, that involved Atlanta police officers kicking a woman who was handcuffed, laying down on the ground. And that's going to be our topic tonight. The APD has placed the sergeant on unpaid leave and another officer on unpaid leave from the video that showed him kicking Ashley Cooley in the head via CBS 46. The footage originally posted on the Instagram page at Atlanta Uncensored on the Atlanta Uncensored show, and APD. Um, anyway, let me go on to what I want to say about it. I was trying to look at a note, people, so let me go on and just tell you what it was. APD were called to the Summerhill apartment for a domestic incident, and it resulted in the woman being detained, and ultimately she was kicked in the head by the Atlanta sergeant. The allegation is that she spat on his boot and pants that led to the kick. So, what we wanted to do is just talk about that for a moment. We wanted to speak about this in a way, one, to let citizens know that if you have any concerns about the actions of an Atlanta police or corrections officer, that you contact the ACRB. And I'm gonna give that number out, and I'll probably give it out a couple of times over this podcast tonight. But that number is 404-865-8622. And our website, acrbgov.org. Now, Charles, what did you think about when you saw that the officer's actions?
Kicked in the head by the APD. Another embarrassment for the city of Atlanta. Another opportunity now for people to realize that they have an option if these things happen. The person who shot the video has an opportunity to file a complaint with the ACRB, file an anonymous complaint. Those eyewitnesses can file anonymous complaints. And poor Miss Ashley Cooley, she could file an anonymous complaint, or she can file a complaint because she's no longer anonymous. The whole world knows about her, to the ACRB.
Yep, certainly.
It
I
was
mean, it's as we continue to work to improve relationships between citizens and officers. When incidents like this occur, you can't help but go, man, this is setting us back in the work that we're trying to do. Um, so that's a challenging aspect of it because it the actions don't reflect all of the officers on the APD, you know, but for those officers who behave like that, they have to be held accountable for it.
right.
And the truth of the matter is that the best way to be able to hold people accountable is to tell on them so that the department can hold them accountable, so that the ACRB can help hold them accountable. So that's why we have to file these, have people file complaints and encourage and support the police department, and holding officers accountable. Now, when we talk about accountability, there's a couple of ways that you can look at accountability. One, the most obvious is the discipline. And then you have the discipline that involves suspension, terminations. Then you also have the corrective action that involves the counseling and the training and oral and written reprimands, which will also fall under the discipline. But at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, you know, um, ensuring that the public can trust that the police department will address citizens' concerns. Now, I know you guys were talking about some things that were on Instagram earlier today, and um, Melissa, is there something on there that we should be trying to talk about?
Well, honestly, we did get some comments on Instagram. I can go through that really quick. And then I want to just, try to put my little 2 cents in because I really feel like it's two sides to it, especially with the allegations that were set against the woman. But I feel like, officers are put in place to somewhat diffuse situations. No one's happy to be arrested. So I would really hope that there are tools and mechanisms in place during training to let these officers know how to act or how to keep their composure when they may feel disrespected in an arrest. But before that, the comments here, I have the same sentiments for some of them, but Steve Dalton .73 on Instagram said, defend the police. Both of these officers, previous arrest records and investigations must be investigated. He and his partner have done this before. Deplorable evil. I have seen the APD treat our homeless in similar treatments for merely just walking not fast enough. Our entire force needs to be retained or fired or re-interviewed for rehire. Our entire force is an embarrassment in the city that is too busy to hate. That's a full comment there. And then another comment that we saw was just questioning the reason. What was the reason? It seems like pure evil that was displayed at that moment in time. And I think there's a lot of truth to both of those comments. But for myself, and the question that I want to ask to you, Lee, is how do you feel like, because the allegation that was placed and that was put out there is that the woman that was detained spat on his boot and his shoe. So there was some type on his boot and his pants, excuse me. So there was some type of disrespect that took place. But in the midst of that, like, how do you see an officer being able to diffuse themselves and not act in such a way? Because being spit on is a very high form of disrespect, but she was already detained. There's no reason to ever kick a woman in her face. So how do you feel like officers in that moment of feeling disrespected in an arrest, how they can keep their composure in those type of, compromising situations?
Yeah, that's a good question. And really it just goes to human nature. How do we all diffuse ourselves when we feel like we're frustrated and we feeling disrespected? You would think, according to the reports, that this was a sergeant. So this is not the first time. I would imagine this was not the first time that the sergeant was in that type of situation. So at some point, it gets back to understanding that the consequences for your actions, if you don't already have that self-control, through your training and understanding the policy, then a firm understanding of consequences that can occur from taking certain actions should help keep one in line. When you don't respect the consequences or believe that you're going to be held accountable, sometimes people tend to do what they act on their natural impulses. You know, um, Personally, my personality, there's a lot of times I just want to slap somebody, but I know that there are consequences to that action. And I know that I have more to lose now than I had when I was 20, right? I'm in a different place in my life now, so I have to be able to control that, you know, and, uh, in doing this work for as long as we've been doing it, um, at the end of the day, if you don't fear consequences, you'll do whatever you want to do. I think that I think that, going back to what I say a lot of times, you know, it is the core of the individual. You know, I think that one of the things that we need to focus on is officer selection. And then when you look further down in the officer's career, you look at who's being selected to be in those positions of FTOs and leadership and sergeants, lieutenants. You know, they have to be reexamined again to make sure that internal part is right. Because as we think about Derek Chauvin, he was what, the lead officer, FTO.
Yep.
Apparently, and it's pretty clear that his core wasn't straight. You know what I
Right.
mean? That it was slanted. And
And there was a history there as well.
right.
So
So there's no way he should have been leading anybody, and I think that's something that, police departments and civilian oversight are really going to have to dive into, is really talking about this selection for being an officer, for being supervisors. I believe that's something that we really need to have a conversation about, because at the end of the day, when the training goes out the window, when the policies don't mesh up to what's occurring at the time, it's that individual on the inside that's going to determine, the guardrails of how much action they're going to take and what they're going to do.
And I think that's why it's so important for citizens of Atlanta to file a complaint whenever they feel, not the slightest, but something that really resonates with them that they just know inherently is not right. Because the people who commit these type of acts, I don't think they just happen, off of one chance. I think it's something that they probably have done before in the past. And then just like anyone else, they feel like they can get away with it. They never get caught, and it builds up until they become a sergeant or something even higher. And then we have something like this. So it's really important that we are able to just file those complaints and create a history, on those officers. So when something like this happens, we can look back and show that, hey, this has happened before, and we might need to get this guy out of here before it's too late.
And again, and it goes back to and that's how we, as an agency and as citizens, ensure that we have the best officers on the street.
Exactly.
Which at the end of the day it should be, is everyone's goal. Wanting to have the best officers out there protecting the community. And,
right.
And that's by bringing attention to the wrong acts that occur out in the community. Last night when I received that video, I was thinking, you know, it's good to be able to get that video, right? But it's better to be able to get the complaint with the video.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because you want to be able to take action. You want to be able to get somebody on it now and be able to take the action. And that's what I want to encourage. And something else, Melissa. You only have to know that you have a complaint, right? You just have to feel like, wait a minute, something wasn't right here.
Feel slighted.
That's why we have 4 investigators, an investigative team with years and years of experience that will be able to investigate that complaint and tell you, was this an allegation? Was this an allegation? You know what I'm saying? Was the action wrong? So you only have to know it. You just have to file it, and then you can be able to do it.
we can find out what exact policies were broken in that instance, if any. Or
Right.
if we just need to have a mediation and maybe someone needs to say sorry and we sit those two people down and we say sorry and I say I accept, we're here to really facilitate that and to
Yeah.
really work for both sides.
And I'm
But
glad you mentioned mediation because, mediation is about, sharing that perspective, getting that mutual understanding and that mutual respect,
right.
everybody on the plane on the same footing, and we're going to talk this thing out. And the thing about the mediation program is even if it doesn't settle, guess what? It goes to an investigation. But the really good thing about it is anytime you have those types of conversations, everybody walks away with learning something,
Right.
even if it settles, or even if it doesn't settle.
So with this certain situation, everyone knows Miss Ashley Cooley's name, unfortunately, due to this instance. But things like this happen every day, and everyone doesn't have the platform that she has at the moment, where she may have a lot of people trying to help. So what actions can she take aside from what's probably going to be given to her already against this officer? And what actions could a regular person within the city of Atlanta limits take against something like this?
Yeah, good. Going back to what I was saying before, that number 404-865-8622. File a complaint, call us. We want to be able to help you. Go to the website, file a complaint on the website at the acrbgov.org. It's got to be documented so that it can be addressed. And I'm going to say this too. Even if you file a lawsuit, or even if criminal charges are being attached to an officer, you still need to file a complaint, because we're going to be looking at it from the administrative policy side. No matter what happens in the legal system, we're going to take care of it on this side to make sure that if the officer needs to be held accountable for violating the policy, that he or she is being held accountable. Regular citizens are the ones making this decision. Citizens that's just like your neighbors, just like your family members, sit on this board and they review the completed investigations that we have, and they make the decisions. And I'm not just talking about just regular citizens though, because they have training, they receive training from the staff, from the police department, from the legal community, from the ethics department. So they even know more than what the juries know when they're examining these investigations. So, I mean, this is a viable spot for a citizen to come to.
Mr. Charles, I know we've had conversations about this, and you made a great point, and I just reiterate what you said here as far as the bystanders and like the Instagram page that actually caught it, ATL Uncensored. When you catch things like this and you're able, instead of, even though it was great to get it to an outlet like ATL Uncensored, bystanders with that information, what can they do? Can they file a complaint? Can they bring us that video? And not only to just repost on social media, and it did justify and gain that wildfire effect and get everywhere, but can a bystander file a complaint?
Certainly. If you have firsthand knowledge, witnessed it, file a complaint. You can file a complaint with us. And and even if you don't know the person's name or the officer's name, the person's been arrested, there's a record of it. Date, time, location, we'll find it. Date, time, location, we'll find it. Squad car number, we'll find it. If you catch the officer's name, that's great. But all of that information would help us be able to conduct the investigation. And if you really don't want to be involved in it like that, you can file it anonymously. In 2016, we added to the ordinance so that citizens can file complaints anonymously, because we heard from the community and we wanted to respond to the community about the concerns of, retaliation. So we brought it to the city council to put in anonymous, to be able to be authorized to receive anonymous complaints. And now we can take anonymous complaints. Now, I will say this about anonymous complaints, though. If you file an anonymous complaint, you must have all the information in the complaint, all the information that you can, because we're not going to be able to get back in contact with you.
Mr. Charles, can you detail like the specifics of like if you did do an anonymous, just the few things that we do need?
You need everything. You need all of the information, just as Lee was saying, because again, it's very difficult to be able to track when you don't have all the specifics in an anonymous complaint. But Lee, I did have a question for you in terms of the stigma that we've been living with for so many decades from the police side and from the citizen side. From the police side, we know about the so-called blue wall of silence. From the citizen side, we know about the stigma of snitches get stitches.
Right.
Are we overcoming that now in the age of George Floyd?
I think the push is there. I mean, at the end of the day, people have to be supported and feel comfortable to be able to tell. That's inside the police and outside of the police. You know, it does me no good to, as a citizen, if I'm gonna go up and tell on something that happened and I'm gonna catch blowback from it. I gotta still live in this community.
Right.
You know, now I got the people coming after me, you know, or as an officer, I need to tell on my fellow officer if the command staff or the leadership or my sergeants or whatever are not going to support me in that. I still have to work with these folks. You know what I'm saying? So as we build out the support systems, I think it's going to grow even more, you know, because you're right. People need to say what they see. I mean, that's the only way we're going to be able to get the bad actors to stop doing the bad acts. You know what I'm saying? By them knowing that, oh, I'm going to be held accountable. Somebody's going to tell on me. Somebody's going to stop me from doing this. That's the only way we're going to really be able to do this, you know?
And you know what really bothers me? I keep thinking again about Derek Chauvin. He knew that he was being videotaped. And I'm thinking about this sergeant yesterday. He must have known that his body camera, if he was following the rules, was working, and that it was documented that he was kicking this helpless woman in the head with his shoe. I mean, I just don't understand that. I mean, something about that makes no sense to me. Why somebody would put themselves in that position, even if, you know what I mean?
Think about it like this too, though. Think about it like this. Again, it goes back to human nature. Cameras out in the community all over the place. You can't go anywhere and not be recorded by somebody, right? In stores, on the street corners, or whatever. Guess what? People know that. They know that the cameras are there. But it's a couple of things. Either I don't think I'm going to get caught. You know, even if it's recording me, I don't think I'm going to get caught. I don't have to worry about fearing the consequences. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm just going to go and test the system because that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? And so the camera alone doesn't stop. And that's what we were telling people back in 2015 when we put out our report about the body-worn cameras. The camera alone doesn't stop people from doing things that they want to do. At the end of the day, it's about, will I be held accountable for what I'm doing? If I don't think I'm going to be held accountable for it because the culture will not hold me accountable. Hey, unless my core is straight, you know, unless I have some internal controls, then, you know, hey, so what, the camera's there. I'm not going to worry about that camera. You know, I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Wow.
You know, and that's what we have to fight against. Naomi, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Just kind of still in shock with just everything. And then going, and especially like with our like the mental, with like Ashley having like, that mental health, like a mental health issue. It's just always it's just you would think that like, law enforcement would be, more trained or more aware of to approach, an individual with with any type of mental health issue.
Well, I guess here's the thing though, and you're absolutely right about that. But when I saw the video, um, the Miss Cooley was handcuffed and laying on the ground, mental health or not.
It's already changed.
Was that necessary?
Yeah.
But and being true to what we do, we can sit here all day and speculate and guess and everything, but at the end of the day, we would have to conduct an investigation into the actions. You know what I mean? I mean, we saw the video of what happened, and some people will say, "Hey, that's enough for me. I'm good to go." But as a fair and transparent, independent investigative agency, we would have to conduct an investigation because that's what our process requires. We have to follow the process, conduct an investigation, and then once we've looked at the policies, the facts, gotten all the records and evidence, we can make a decision that we can stand behind, be supported, and that won't be reversed on a technicality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and I know for some community members, it's like that can be difficult to say. Well, why are you waiting? Why you need to conduct an investigation? The process.
Yeah.
The process requires you conduct an investigation. That's the way it works. And then once you complete the investigation, though, you completed that process, then the process is supposed to work to where people who are supposed to be held accountable are held accountable.
All right.
That's what's supposed to happen.
Because I think people always get it confused as far as, especially with civilian oversight and like the whole new thing that came around as far as defunding the police. It kind of gets the lines kind of get meshed and people kind of see them all as the same. And I think we know that we cannot live in a lawless society, especially, within our agency, but it's important for us to have the good officers out there and just them, no one else. So I think that's the important role that we play, just trying to weed out the bad actors, because we can't live without our police officers being there for us. Because when we get in trouble, we know the first people we call are 911. We just hate when they come and make a mess, an even bigger mess of the situation when the wrong ones come. So I think that's something that we always need to make sure we state before closing out, and making sure that we always keep at the forefront that we cannot be without them. We need them, but we need the good ones.
Right. And we need accountability.
And
we need accountability.
Yes.
Look, I'm always saying you can put, all the social workers out there you want, or whoever. People have to be held accountable and understand that there's accountability with whatever service you're providing, and especially when you're providing a service to those who are in vulnerable situations or in trying or high emotional times. There has to be some guardrails of accountability there.
Wow.
That's critical.
Well, that's all we have for today's section and segment of Tuesday Night Talks. Just with our closeout, we want to please always remind everyone, you all can reach out to us via our website, acrbgov.org. And that telephone number, Mr. Lee, give it to him one more time.
404-865-8622.
So you can find us on the web to file a complaint. You can give us a call, and you can also let us know on your thoughts on this topic and other relatable topics that we have. We're on all social platforms. Our Instagram and Facebook is ATL Citizen Review Board, and our Twitter is ATL CRB. We want to remind everyone to stay safe, and we'll see you all again in the next 2 weeks, Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.